Hello everyone, Namaste. I am Mythili here again, your zoology faculty with another super duper session of rapid revision, right? This is the revision for your another human physiology chapter, which is digestion and absorption, which is going to help you in NEET 2021. So let me tell you beforehand itself, now this rapid revision is for those who have finished your 11th and 12th and are about to appear for your NEET 2021. Okay. Why this kind of a statement? Because this is a revision that I am going to do of the entire chapter in the next half hour, which is something which is more comprehended by the students who would have finished their 11th and 12th. That's the only reason, guys, I am telling you that, this half an hour revision is going to help you way with terms of your NEET is concerned, right? So, let's begin our rapid revision. Before that, I chose that particular pic for a little bit of inspiration there. Now that's the most venerated and most precious and most serene accessory you can ever wear, right? All this that we are doing is just to wear that beautiful stet, right, in your neck, and you all are going to, look very beautiful with that most precious accessory. Hope you do it. So let me start with a quote like the usual, okay? And let me pick my pen as well. So life is finite while knowledge is infinite, right? So this is another beautiful quote by Chinese philosopher Zhuangzi. So he is one who quoted this, and we can't agree more. At Infinity Learn, this is what we believe. Learning is infinite and is fun if you're passionate about it, if you're totally into it, if you're getting involved into it. It's a lot of self-study too, along with loads and loads of help that you can get from us, right? So, a very beautiful quote which says life is finite while knowledge is infinite. So, come on, subscribe to Infinity Learn. And let's start with our rapid revision right now. Are you all geared up? Right? Let's start our roller coaster ride. Here we go. So digestion and absorption, your first year chapter, that is 11th human physiology. We start with this particular one. So we are going to go about finishing this revision in the next half hour. Stay tuned. So as far as digestion is concerned, what are the most important food components? It's carbohydrates, proteins and fats, the three most important food components. Along with it is what is necessary is the vitamins as well as minerals, also in smaller quantities. So these are the three most important food components that are required, right, for the human body. And then we talk about the definition. What is digestion? It is conversion of complex food substances into simple absorbable forms. What is digestion? It is the breakdown of complex food particles into simple absorbable forms, right? It is something that is broken down into simple absorbable forms. So why do we need to do this? Because only then the cells are going to absorb. So the carbohydrates are too large enough molecules. When it is broken down to the monosaccharides, that's when our cells will be able to absorb them. Proteins are very large. Broken down to amino acids, that's when the cells are going to absorb them. Although these food components are some things which are similar, even if a small fly is consuming or a large elephant is consuming, the way these are going to be assembled into the bodily required proteins, that is something that's making a difference where it is breaking down. What kind of reactions are the ones that are taking place? They are the hydrolytic reactions. What are all the chemical reactions that are taking place? That's a hydrolytic. What do we mean by hydrolytic? in chemical reactions there is an addition of water molecule which brings about the lysis of the large biomolecules. Okay, there is somebody who's on the text. Okay, Kiran, thank you so much for that compliment. Stay tuned as we revise the, the digestion chapter. So, chemical reactions that are taking place in digestion are the ones which are referred to as the hydrolytic reactions, where there is an addition of the water molecule in order to break down these. Now, the digestion is something that is taking place in two major processes which include chemical and mechanical. So, what do we mean by mechanical digestion? So, mechanical digestion is where we are chewing the food. See, this is something that you know from, very low classes. That's mastication of the food is taking place because of your teeth and tongue that are present in the mouth. Once after the food is chewed, what happens to it in the esophagus? This contraction, relaxation of the muscles where there is peristalsis that is taking place. That's also a mechanical digestion. And what happens next when it goes into the stomach? It's nicely churned and it's mixed with the digestive juices in the small intestine. What is taking place there is segmentation. So, all these are referred to as the mechanical digestion. Mechanical digestion is where we are considering processes like the mastication, peristalsis as well as the segmentation. Now, chemical digestion, this is what all about your particular chapter is concerned. This is where a lot of NEET questions are expected. So, with that in the very first slide, you need to just remember the definition, right? There may be questions arising from, these are referred to as the hydrolytic reactions, where there's an addition of water molecule in order to be able to break down the complex molecules into simple absorbable forms, right? So, the entire digestive system, basically it's comprised of the alimentary canal and the associated glands. Alimentary canal is something that is starting from one opening, which is the mouth to anus, right? It's a complete digestive system. From here, you can also recall one of your questions from the animal kingdom as well. Incomplete gut, incomplete digestive system. Where do we find it? Platyhelminthes, right? So, there is incomplete digestive system where there's a single opening both for ingestion as well as egestion. We on the other hand have two openings. It starts from the mouth all the way till the anus, which is a complete digestive system, and there are also associated glands starting from your salivary glands to the liver to the pancreas. There is also gastric glands, the intestinal glands, right? So, all these together are going to bring about the digestion. Now, within the mouth, that's where we're going to start, buccal cavity. What are the important structures? There is a muscular tongue, right? And there are teeth. These are the two structures which we are going to discuss. How is our tongue supported? The tongue is something that is supported by a hyoid bone, right? Remember, from the skeletal system, this can also be a question. The tongue is something that's supported by the hyoid bone. How is your tongue attached to the floor of the buccal cavity? It's the frenulum. Frenulum is the attachment point of the tongue to the floor. It is attached at behind, right? If you look at the frogs, it is attached at the frontal end, right? A bifid tongue in the frog you would have studied, which would be attached at the frontal end. This on the other hand is attached at the back. It has got extrinsic muscles coming out of the tongue, and intrinsic muscles within the tongue. It's a muscular organ which is helping us with, like, for now, right now I'm speaking to you because of the tongue movements which are aiding that kind of a talk, right? Even the food, when you are able to swallow it, the tongue is something that is going to help you with, right? So, the tongue is the structure, a muscular organ. It is attached by a frenulum, a very, very, very important point. It is supported by the hyoid bone, right? And this tongue is also something that has got the papillae, right? So, here there are small projections that are present on the tongue which are referred to as the papillae. What do these small projections do? They do have taste buds. So these taste buds are some things which are helping us with sense the different kinds of chemicals that are present in the food and help us, get the sense of the taste, whether it is sweet, sour, right, salty, and there is this new taste called umami, which is tasted by all over the tongue, which is lingers for a very long time period, right? So the taste buds are some things which are helping us with the sense of the taste, gustatory sensillae. So these are what are present in these small projections called papillae, which are present on the tongue. So do all the projections have the taste buds? No. There are also papillae which are without the taste buds. What are they? They are the filiform papillae. Filiform papillae, as the name suggests, they are thread-like structures. They do not have taste buds. So if they do not have taste buds, what are they even doing there on the tongue, right? They are helping us with provide the friction so that the food doesn't slip off the tongue. These are the structures which are helping us with the, providing with friction on the tongue, right? Now getting back to the tooth structure, very, very, very important, as I was telling you when I was talking about weightage of whole first and second year, that is 11th and 12th chapters as well. I did tell you about how important dentition is. So when we are looking at the teeth structure, the oral cavity has n number of teeth. So number of teeth is 32 when it comes to the permanent teeth and 20 when it comes to the milk teeth. Okay, so let me just what do I keep? Okay, so I mistakenly I will just start. Can you start it? Okay, right, it's play, right? Okay, so I should be very careful when I go to that corner, right? So sorry about that, a little of disturbance. So we were talking about the teeth, right? So the teeth structure are some things which are about 20. Milk teeth are about 20. So I need to get that pen again. Okay, milk teeth, or also referred to as the deciduous teeth. Now, why are they referred to as so? This is something I always keep telling as far as biology is concerned. Always learn the origin of the word, a little bit of language there. You will easily understand the meaning of it. You will be very easily writing the definition about it. You will be very easily answering the questions about it also. Now it is referred to as milk teeth because you observe any of these children and observe their teeth. So there will be both, especially those who would have gotten some of the permanent teeth, and there are also milk teeth as well. You will definitely observe that the milk teeth are something which are more whitish in appearance compared to the permanent teeth, which is the reason why they are referred to as the milk teeth. They are more whitish in appearance. They are also referred to as the deciduous teeth. Why the deciduous teeth? Because these are the teeth which are eventually going to fall off, just like the leaves of the deciduous forest. Okay, in the deciduous forest, what happens to the trees? The leaves are some things which are going to fall off seasonally. These are the teeth which are going to eventually fall off, so called deciduous teeth. What is the formula when it comes to the milk teeth? Yes, we do have the permanent teeth formula, which is 2123 by 2123, which is 2123. Why do we even write it this way? This is because we are representing the number on the upper jaw and the lower jaw. Upper jaw 1/2 is what is represented exactly by this number, because if you total it up, it is 8. So 8 in 1/2 of upper jaw. So it will be multiplied by 2. So which is 16, and there is 16 again in the lower. Together what does it become? 32. On the other hand, what about the milk teeth? That will be 210 2. This will be the dental formula when it comes to the milk teeth, right? So milk teeth will be, so what are the ones that are missing? Basically the molars are some things. You add it up again, there will be 5 and 5 multiplied by 2, that would be 10, and 10 together, how many are the number of the milk teeth? It is 20. So basically we understood there is milk teeth, there's permanent teeth, so there are teeth that are being replaced. Okay, how many are being replaced? The 20 teeth are being replaced. How many are the ones which are appearing only once? That will be 12. 12 are the ones which are appearing only once, right? Remember this. Based on this also questions will appear in NEET. Dentition is very, 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 very important, right? So 20 are the ones which are being replaced. 12 are the ones that are appearing only once. It can be termed what? Monophyodont as well, right? Monophyodont is something that you can term when it is something which is appearing only once. So because we have two sets of teeth, what are we referred to as? Diphyodont. What is given in the textbook? We have two sets of teeth, diphyodont. That is something that I have only advised where there may be probability of the question. We are diphyodont. There are certain set of teeth which are appearing only once, because of which we can be those set of teeth, those 12 can be referred to as the monophyodont. Now, why do we even write in this particular manner? It is incisors, canines, premolars and molars. So far we have learnt that there are, the 16 on the upper, 16 on the lower. Again, among these 16, there are also different types. So these types are the incisors, which are usually for the cutting, canines for tearing, premolars and molars for grinding. So there are different kinds of tooth, which is the reason why we are referred to as heterodont. Right? We are diphyodont, we have two sets of teeth. We are heterodont, we have different types of teeth. And we are also the thecodont, very, very, very important point. What is thecodont? There's something that are, embedded in the socket of our jaw bone. So if you look at the structure, okay, let me get some space here. How does that look? So that is a typical structure of the tooth, where you can see the crown part. What you see when you open your mouth, it's just the crown that is being seen. You don't see the rest of the portion, which is actually embedded right into the socket of the jawbone, right? So that is the reason why, what is it referred to as the thecodont. Thecodont dentition is what is mentioned in the NCERT. So put together, what kind of dentition do we have? It's a thecodont embedded in the socket of the jawbone. It's diphyodont because we have two sets of the teeth, which is milk as well as the deciduous, and it is heterodont. We have different kinds, which is incisors, canines, premolars and molars. And one more important point, the crown is something that's covered by a very strong substance in the entire human body. And what is it referred to as? Enamel. Enamel is the strongest substance which is covering your crown, which is keeping you from all that wear and tear that's happening for all the food that we consume in our entire lifetime. Yes, enamel is something that is secreted by ameloblasts. Ameloblasts are the cells which are secreting what is referred to as the enamel, and there is also a second strong substance within it is referred to as the dentine, which is what is secreted by the odontoblasts. It is something that's secreted by the odontoblasts. So its dentition is something that's very, very important, which is why I kind of little stretched it, but now is the time I will go ahead. So these are some of the questions that I have put up from the NEET. You can see that there is a question about the dental formula. I know you're already answering this. And the primary dentition in human differs from the permanent dentition in not having one of the, which of the following? You are already answering it. I know it's the molars which are missing, right? So there are further questions: thecodont, diphyodont, heterodont. This is the type you find in the humans, right? So there are lot of questions that are asked in the NEET. Just for that sake, I have put on that slide. So this is the alimentary canal. Yes, if you observe, there are no diagrammatic questions that are being asked of late. After, I guess, about 2012, 2013, you've not seen much the diagrammatic questions in the NEET so far. But again, there is always a chance it reappears, right? But with or without it, this is something which is helping you understand the entire alimentary canal, right? It's starting from the mouth, ending with anus, and there are these salivary glands we are going to talk about. What are the salivary glands? You can see here: parotid glands, submaxillary and sublingual glands. Now these are all the glands that are present outside of the buccal cavity. So please do not miss this in the correct incorrect statements, right? Very easy to miss this. They are opening into the buccal cavity, okay? One is opening the parotid glands, the largest ones that are present at your cheek area. These are some things that are opening at the upper jaw, in the maxilla, near the molar teeth is where they are opening. On the other hand, submaxillary, sublingual open beneath the tongue. Beneath the tongue is where they are going to make their opening into. So they are secreting saliva into the mouth. So that is the job of these three pairs of the salivary glands. A pair of parotid, the largest glands, also secretes the most of the salivary amylase enzyme we are going to talk about. Submaxillary and sublingual. Of course, the ducts also have the name: Stenson's ducts, Wharton's duct, duct of Rivinus, through which they are pouring in their secretions into the mouth, right? So it again goes through the pharynx, which is important. It's a common passage both for the air and the food. It's a common passage. That's where both of them are making a cross. So this is something which is again which is dividing into both that of the into trachea as well as into the food pipe. So this is described as a common passage both for air as well as food. So that is one question that can be asked as far as pharynx is concerned, and it continues further to esophagus. Esophagus is the tube which is where peristaltic movement is quite evident, right? And then it enters the J-shaped structure, which is the stomach. Now the stomach has different regions to it. The dome-shaped, which is referred to as the fundus, and then the majority of it, which is referred to as the body. And then the portion that is nearer where the esophagus is opening into, it's called the cardiac stomach, and one which is nearer to the, which is basically opening into the intestine, is the pyloric stomach. So what are the four regions of the stomach now? It's the fundus, the dome-shaped structure, the body, okay, the cardiac, which is where it is receiving the esophagus. Question can be framed on based on this. Esophagus opens into which part of the stomach? The cardiac part of the stomach. Which part of the stomach opens into the intestine, the small intestine? That would be the pyloric stomach, but the pylorus. So the four regions, and from the stomach they get into the small intestine, which again has three regions to it, which is the C-shaped duodenum, very coiled jejunum, and then the ileum, right? Duodenum, jejunum and the ileum. These are the three regions of the small intestine. The C-shaped one, the much coiled one, and there is a much longer ileum, right? Why jejunum got its name? Interestingly, it just means emptiness. This is the region which is going to be empty once after the person is dead. which is why this particular name to it. A little fact, this is something that we can describe in a more detailed manner once we start our courses with the class 11th. Fresh batches, tune in guys, subscribe and like, and so that you crack the next NEET examination, right? So these are the three regions when it comes to the small intestine, and then the large intestine, which is here is a ileocecal valve which gives it away to the cecum, right? Very, very important region. It is something which is hosting the microbes, and then a little blind sac that is appearing, vermiform appendix. It's the vestigial structure, important in your 12th evolution chapter as well. Vermiform appendix is the vestigial structure, present functional in the ancestors and non-functional when it comes to that of the present, right? And the cecum gives it away to the colon, where it has again different regions: ascending colon, right, the transverse colon, the descending colon and the sigmoid colon, right? 4 regions. In the older textbook edition you wouldn't see sigmoid colon, but it is included in the newer version. So please take a note, there may be a question, right? So 4 regions include the ascending, transverse, descending and the sigmoid colon, right? And then it gives it away to the rectum. It finally gives it to the rectum, where the wastes are defecated. So this is about in brief a bird's eye view of the entire alimentary canal. The sphincters are some things which are also very, very important. You are going to make a note of right here. What is the sphincter called? It's called the cardiac sphincter. It usually fails so that the stomach contents come out as a vomit. Vomit is something which is only your stomach contains. What goes into the intestine has to only come out through the anus. Your intestinal contents are not something which are being vomited, right? It's only your stomach contents when there's a failure of this particular cardiac sphincter or the gastroesophageal sphincter, one and the same, right? And the other end is the pyloric sphincter, and then there is a ileocecal valve, and then there are the external anal sphincter, internal anal sphincter. Wherever there is a voluntary function involved, it is usually made of the skeletal muscles. I am going to touch a little of tissues here. See, look at the esophagus here in the beginning. There also, there are skeletal muscles, and anus. Here also there are the skeletal muscles, the external anal sphincter. Deglutition or swallowing is something that is a voluntary action. External anal sphincter is also something that has a control over defecation. Both of these areas is something which is made up of the skeletal muscle. We are going to discuss the histology as well, right? So the pharynx, I did tell you, it's already a common passage both for food and air. Another very, very important structure based on which question can be framed. What is that? Epiglottis. Epiglottis is a flap-like structure which is made up of just the cartilage. Cartilage is something, again, you're going back to your tissues chapter. Why is this epiglottis important? It's a lid-like structure basically which is helping with the closure of the glottis. Now, what is a glottis? Glottis is something which is the opening of trachea, right? This is something that is to be closed off so that the food doesn't enter your airways. That food is something which has to go through only the esophagus. It shouldn't be getting into the trachea, where the case study questions can be framed. You and your friend are having a lunch or a dinner together, and suddenly your friend starts choking over the food. What would have happened? It's a non-functional epiglottis. If this lid doesn't close off this particular structure, the opening of the trachea, what happens? The food chunks get into the trachea and it can be quite fatal too. Okay, it has to be gotten out. The food particle that have gotten into the airways, something that has to be spit out. Only then they can be saved, right? So that is a very important one. And then I already discussed the 4 parts. Here it's more clearer if you observe the dome shaped structure, it's the fundus, and the region where it receives the esophagus, the cardiac, majority of it the body, and then we have the pyloric which gives it away to the small intestine, right. So, again this here it is talking a little bit about the sphincters, which I already talked about. There are symbiotic microorganisms in the cecum. I did discuss when we are discussing the diagram. So, this is an important point to make note of. Cecum is something that is lodging the symbiotic microorganisms, right. It has a little projection which is something that is vestigial. What is it? Vermiform appendix. Pay attention to that particular word. And what are the divisions of the colon? I did discuss. It's the ascending, transverse, descending, and the sigmoid colon, right. Very, 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 very important diagram. If at all it's not given in the diagrammatic form, it can be a sequence question. So please do remember one way sequence, at least outside in at least. So it will be serosa, the outermost layer, mesothelium, and then it's the muscularis, which is the inner circular, outer longitudinal, and there may be oblique muscles as well in certain regions like the stomach. There may be oblique muscles as well, and then there is submucosa, mucosa, and the lumen. This is where you actually see the food passing through. This is the region, the lumen, in which the food is passing through, right. So remember this outside in, serosa, muscularis, the submucosa, mucosa, muscularis again inner circular, and then outer longitudinal. This is a sequence question that can appear. So please do remember this particular sequence of the histology of the gut. Mucosa is something that can be, undergoing modifications. When it comes to the stomach, what does it form? Rugae. Rugae are the folds in the stomach which can, expand when it has to accommodate the food. On the other hand, how does it modify in the intestine? I know you're saying those answers, which are the villi, the finger-like projections, which are the villi, which also has that brush border microvilli in order to increase the area of absorption. Also, this muscularis has a plexus which is referred to as Auerbach plexus or the myenteric plexus. Myenteric plexus is something that is present here, or Auerbach, which is the German spelling, so we do not spell that R in it. And there is also in submucosa Meissner's plexus, right, or the submucosal plexus. These are some things which are allowing the peristaltic movement, the gastric secretions, all that is helped by these nerve plexus, right. And here we are discussing another very, very important structure. I already told you, finger-like projections of the intestine or the villi. Within villi are these lymphatic vessels called the lacteals. What is so important about these lacteals? If at all you look at the food components like the carbs and the proteins, these are broken down into the amino acids, monosaccharides, which can be absorbed by the blood capillaries. On the other hand, fats are some things which are not absorbed into the blood capillaries. Instead, they are what are absorbed by these lymphatic vessels that are present in the villi called the lacteals. So this is one other very, very important one. And in between the bases of villi, what are present? Crypts of Lieberkühn. Again, a German physiologist came with the name, his name in his honor, it's Lieberkühn. Crypts of Lieberkühn is something that's present in between the bases of the villi. These, and when it comes to the stomach, what are the little depressions called there? Gastric pits. In the intestine, they are the crypts of Lieberkühn, right? And then digestive glands, we talked about the salivary glands. Largest ones are, I know you're saying that answer, the parotid glands, which are, and one other fact if I have to say, scientists have wondered for a long time period, the salivary amylase which is already, performing its duty when it comes to the small intestine. Why is that there's so much of salivary amylase in the saliva? One of the hypotheses is that whatever food that's stuck within your mouth in the tooth, just so that it is not causing a lot of decay by the microorganisms, the digestion of carbs starts in the very mouth itself. Amazing human body, right? So, and next we move on to the liver, the largest gland, very, very important, and its functional unit is hepatic lobules. Hepatic lobules are some things which are covered by Glissen's capsules. This is a very, very, very important point. Thanks guys for all those beautiful comments I can see on the live chat. Thank you so much. So let me go ahead with that. This Glissen's capsule that's covering the the hepatic lobules that are present, which are the functional units of the liver. So what is the function of the liver? As far as digestion is concerned, it is way, way more function compared to what we are discussing, but confining to digestion, bile juice is something that it is secreting, and it's getting concentrated in this little sac which is referred to as the gallbladder, right? These form a common bile duct, and along with duct that's coming from the pancreas, they form a hepatopancreatic duct, which is guarded by the sphincter of Oddi, which is very, 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 very important, based on which question can appear. So liver is something that's secreting bile juice. Bile doesn't have enzymes. How does it help? Again, a question that you can all answer very, very easily. It has the bile salts, which are helping with the digestion of fats. These large molecules are some things which are converted into micelles by the bile salts, because bile salts are something which are amphipathic in nature, which has both hydrophilic and hydrophobic ends, so that they are making the fats more soluble, right? And then here is where there's more discussion of the sphincter of Oddi, which I just told you about. And pancreas is something which is referred to as, you have studied in your chemical control chapter, which is basically composite gland, mixed gland. It can secrete the digestive juices, pancreatic enzymes, as well as hormones. So the pancreas has a acini, which is secreting the pancreatic enzymes. It has islets of Langerhans, which is very, very important, our tail end chapter, the last chapter in class 12, where we are talking about the glucagon and the insulin, right? So pancreatic juice and its enzymes, very, very important, based on which questions have appeared. I've chosen a very long ago kind of question, 1990, because it makes sense. If you look at pancreatic juice and hormones, are they secreted by the same cells? No, different cells, same reason. And in case they are, whatsoever kind of food that you consume, why that feces appears yellow in color? Bile pigments, again, along with bile salts, the bile juice consists of the bile pigments which impart that color. Now in digestion, again, very, very important, the chemical reactions, pay attention. Swallowing is something that is referred to as deglutition. I told you skeletal muscles are some things there at the esophagus that are helping with it, and of course the tongue is something, it's a voluntary action, right? And these cells in the stomach are very, very, very important, based on which the questions have appeared a lot of times. Identify the ones which are protecting the lining. So remember this very, very importantly, it's goblet cells that secrete the mucus in the intestine, chief neck cells, mucous neck cells, which are secreting in the stomach. It's the mucous neck cells. In the intestine, it's the goblet cells which are secreting the mucus, right? So within mouth, again, this chemical reaction is very, very important. I told you about salivary amylase. Why it carries its function only in the mouth, not in the stomach? pH. pH is something that's apt, 6.8 when it comes to mouth, 1.8, about not more than 2 when it comes to in the stomach. and what happens at quite acidic pH where amylase cannot bring about its action, right? So salivary amylase is breaking down the starch into maltose, which is later broken down by the intestinal enzymes, which are the maltases, right? So these three are very important. Please mark it important in your NCERT. You would have already, so please make a note again just before the examination about their secretions. Mucous neck cells secrete mucus, peptic chief cells secrete the pepsinogen, and parietal oxyntic cells are secreting HCl, and Cassell's intrinsic factor, which helps with the absorption of vitamin B12, right? And then in the stomach, there's food that is staying for 4 to 5 hours. It's mixed with gastric juice. What do we call it? Chyme. Very important. In the mouth, what is it called? Bolus. In the stomach, what is it called? The chyme. When the food is actually entering into the small intestine, it is in the form of the chyme. And Brunner's glands that are present in the submucosa are very important, which are secreting the bicarbonate and water. Why do we need so much of mucus, right? Whether it is the neck cells or the goblet cells or these Brunner's glands, which of the submucosa, they are all preventing excoriation. We do not want the layer to be completely excoriated because of the acidic juices, which is why this kind of an arrangement, again, very amazing, miraculous mechanism we have in the human body, right? And here we are talking about the digestion in the stomach. In the stomach, along HCl is something that is activating proteases. Pepsinogen is converted to pepsin. In the infants, renin, remember it is with the double N, not to be confused with a single N later in the excretion chapter, right? JG cells are secreting renin. Here, this is an enzyme which is helping with the milk protein digestion, right? So based on this, hydrolytic enzymes that act in low pH, obviously in the stomach, proteases, amylase is not acting because the pH is just not right for it, right? So what are all the different enzymes? Again, we are talking about the pancreatic juice is something that contains lot of proteases which are in the pro form, which are in the inactive form, which needs to be activated. And if you have to distinguish between these two, you're confused during the examination, which are pancreatic, which are intestinal. Pay attention to the reactions. The intestinal are the tail end reactions usually, right? So if at all you look at dipeptidases, which are breaking the peptide bond between the two amino acids, that will be the intestinal juice. It will have the carboxypeptidase, right? It is in the, of course, pro-carboxypeptidase when it comes to the pancreatic juice. Again, only proteases of pancreatic juice, that also can be a question that can be asked. So here are all the different kinds of the chemical reactions. Pay attention to each and every one of them. So they are broken down to dipeptides, but before that, very important enzyme, again you need to remember, enterokinase. So this is something that is an intestinal enzyme that's bringing about the activation of trypsin. Trypsinogen is converted to trypsin, which in turn is bringing about activation of other proteases, right? Amylase is something we talked about extensively. Then fats are broken down to diglycerides, then monoglycerides. Nucleases are something that are present in pancreatic juice. Pay attention. Nucleotidases, nucleosidases will be present in the intestinal juice, right? So these are the tail end reactions. I did tell you can distinguish that way. Intestinal juice is all about bringing about the tail end reactions, finally breaking them into amino acids, glucose, galactose, fructose, right? So these are all the questions again based on the reactions. So two things to pay attention, guys, again in the digestion. One is your teeth, another is the chemical reactions that are taking place, right? Calorific value is pretty high when it comes to the fats compared to the carbohydrates and the proteins. So these are some numbers that you need to remember. And then when it comes to the absorption, yes, monosaccharides are some things which are the glucose, galactose and something by the active transport. Fructose is something that is undergoing the facilitated transport. How is it absorbed? By the facilitated transport. Active transport will be the glucose, amino acids and all. Water by osmotic gradient. So what is that we need to pay attention to here? Fat absorption. Fat absorption is something where within the intestinal epithelial cells is where the chylomicrons are formed. They are coated by proteins. Remember the fat that's coated by the proteins, and then they are taken up by the lacteals. So this is one small point I want you to pay attention to. The chylomicrons are formed within the epithelial cells itself, which are then absorbed by lacteals, right? So that is how the fat absorption is taking place. Remember, those are not absorbed by the blood capillaries, right? So this is another match based on the fat absorption, how absorption is taking place at different, if at all you have to point out to something. The alcohol is something that is absorbed in the stomach. So large intestine, it's only absorption of water, some minerals and drugs. Highest digestion absorption is taking place in the small intestine, right? So finally the assimilation, where it becomes the tissues of the body. Defecation, we are talking about how the wastage is something that is being excreted. Fiber is very, very important. Do have lots and lots of fiber to prevent the constipation problems, which is important in terms of your health for the NEET examination as a question as well, right? So disorders, I did tell you each and every physiology chapter disorders are quite important. One question that was given previously was jaundice is a disorder of skin and eyes were given just to mislead you. One point of time, it is the disorder of the digestive system. Yes, skin and eyes are yellowing, but it's a disorder of the digestive system, right? This diarrhea, constipation, indigestion also, based on which there was 2010 question where the spicy food plus anxiety, what does it cause? Indigestion, right? This is something I want you to pay attention to. Protein energy malnutrition, marasmus, kwashiorkor. Let me simplify it to you. Marasmus usually appears in less than an year old, which is deficiency of both proteins and calories. Kwashiorkor on the other hand, little older, which is just the deficiency of the proteins. Edema is again another important difference which you will find in kwashiorkor and not in marasmus, right? So remember these 2 points so that you can answer questions based on it. Also pay attention to the vitamins chart, different types of the vitamins and the associated deficiency disorders. For example, here, yes, retinol is something that is causing xerophthalmia, beriberi by thiamine, peligra on the other hand is by niacin, not cobalamin, calciferol. Ascorbic acid scurvy, right, but it's not a fat soluble vitamin. A, D, E, K are the fat soluble vitamins. So that's it from me. This is digestion, which is definitely a roller coaster ride. Now you will say it along with me. So hope it helps, and I'll come with another physiology chapter Saturday. So stay tuned. Until then, happy learning. పావు గంట ఎక్కువ తీసుకున్నా కదా.